morning. Today is Thursday, November 5th, 2020. We are here for a work session. And as always, we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Catherine, can you please take the lead?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Catherine. Before we begin discussions, I'd like to remind our residents and to continue to be diligent about following all the COVID-19 protocols. The numbers in our area are creeping up, including across the country. Moving forward, the first discussion item we have is the building planning matters surrounding a special permit application for Sonic Drive-In, Murphy and Berman. I think I have the staff report around here. Okay, hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Good.
We have, in our waiting room, we have representatives for the applicant. We have Sean Walter.
What was that? Okay, somebody has a speaker.
Is that a Sonic thing?
Yeah.
It's a Sonic thing. That was built in.
Now you jinxed us.
Yes. Somebody has to, in their home, if you have another radio, you have to turn it off.
I think they took him out.
Oh, you took them out? Okay.
All right, so in the waiting room, we have Sean Walter. We have Wayne Muller, PE. He's the traffic engineer for the applicant. And Tony Giuliani, I believe he represents the property owner. All right, I'll just get started. They can listen in. They can comment at the end of the report. So the planning department has received and reviewed a special permit and site plan application proposing to develop a vacant site with a new 2,759 square foot drive-in restaurant with 57 seats, 41 indoor and 16 outdoor, as well as 22 drive-in curb service parking stalls, as well as a 5,000 square foot one-story retail building, a detached 182 square foot storage shed, as well as related parking, landscaping, lighting, stormwater management improvements. New connections are proposed to the Riverhead Water District as well as the Sewer District. Pursuant to Town Code 30192B3, restaurants with drive-in curb service are specially permitted within the Business Center zoning use district when not adjacent to any residential zoning use district or properties. The subject property shares its western boundary with the Town of Riverhead's municipal garage. It shares its eastern property boundary with a gas station, and a portion of the property's northern boundary is shared with the Riverhead Volunteer Ambulance Station, and as such, it is not next to any residential use. Pursuant to SECRA, it is considered a Type 1 action as it proposes a site with more than 50 parking stalls. This board did adopt a Type 1 SECRA coordination resolution yesterday, so we will send out that SECRA coordination to the involved agencies. We will withhold a recommendation of determination pending receipt of all the involved agencies' comments. The subject parcel, identified as Suffolk County Tax Map number 600-108-2-6.1, is a 77,672 square foot or 1.78 acre parcel of land located approximately 230 feet west of the intersection of Osborne Avenue and Old Country Road. Subject parcel is presently vacant, partially wooded, and is used informally as a parking lot for employees of the Apple Honda, which is located across the street. Now, iterations of this plan have been on file with the town since sometime in 2015. In the time since it's been received by the town, the application has been reviewed extensively by the planning board, with the majority of its concerns and recommendations incorporated into the plans which are currently under review by this board. This was reviewed by a prior site plan reviewer. I'm not sure why, being that it requires a special permit, it did not get to the town board. To my understanding, this is the first time the board is receiving this application. The application does require several variances from town code. It requires variances for unoccupied front yard. Required is 35 feet, proposed is 10 feet to the trash enclosure on Osborne Avenue. It requires a front yard setback for the proposed storage shed at 37.1 feet, where required is 50 feet. and requires side yard combined yard setbacks for the canopies, which are 5.1 and 15.1 combined, where required is 15 and 30. The items to be considered by the reviewing board in connection with the special permit application, specifically Town Code Section 301 through 312. I'll just detail some of the major points in this. Criteria A, the site is particularly suitable for the location of such in the community. The property has frontage along Old Country Road and Osborne Avenue to allow for suitable traffic circulation, and it is located in the Business Center zoning district along the town's main commercial corridor. It does seem that this would be the most appropriate location in town. The plot area is sufficient, appropriate, and adequate for the use and reasonably anticipated expansion. While the property is 1.78 acres in size and has frontage on 2 main roads to facilitate traffic circulation, the project does comply with lot coverage, floor area ratio, and impervious coverage. There are no residential uses that abut the property, and the proposed conditions required that zoning board relief will not create an undesirable situation for any of the neighboring property owners. There are some concerns which I will detail further in the report about the proposed internal traffic circulation pattern within the site. Regarding access to the facility, as I stated, the property has frontage on Old Country Road and Osborne Avenue. The applicant has submitted a traffic impact statement prepared by a licensed professional engineer, which demonstrates that the proposed use will not create a significant negative impact
There's more to it. We gotta talk.
to the traffic in the surrounding area. The proposed curb cuts are in excess of 75 feet from any intersection, and the ingress and egress points will be clearly visible from the street. There are regarding off-street parking. The application complies with the parking schedule of the town code. Through multiple revisions, the application has addressed previous planning board concerns regarding interior traffic circulation and potential congestion. Staff does note that there are no loading areas provided within the proposed site. Although the town code does not require off-street loading berths for commercial buildings under 15,000 square feet, the applicant must demonstrate what types of vehicles will be used to make deliveries to the site, and they must address how these vehicles will be able to safely navigate without causing traffic congestion. Truck turning plans must be provided to demonstrate safe navigation. The application does include a substantial landscaping plan to help provide visual screening from adjacent roadways and neighboring properties. In terms of a public or semi-public plaza area, the site plan does currently propose an outdoor seating area with 16 seats, as well as the 22 drive-in stalls. Additional public or semi-public plazas do not seem appropriate or necessary given the nature of the use and the location of the site. In terms of adequate provisions to be made for collection of storm water and sewage waste, the application does propose connection to the Riverhead Sewer District for sanitary management. This would connect to an existing sewer line on the south side of Old Country Road, so they would be required to drill underneath Old Country Road to make that connection. The site plan does propose a 10.5 foot by 27 foot dumpster enclosure on a masonry pad with a brick masonry enclosure to screen the proposed dumpster enclosure. However, I do note, being that there are 2 separate and distinct uses on this property, one being the restaurant and the other being a proposed 5,000 square foot retail building, the town board should weigh in on whether one dumpster location is appropriate. I'm not sure about the anticipated levels of waste generation, but there may be issues down the road if the one dumpster location is not adequate. In terms of regulating the hours of operation, the applicant has represented at a December 21st, 2017 planning board meeting that the hours of operation for the site would be 9 a.m. through midnight, Sunday through Thursday, and 9 a.m. to 2 a.m. Friday and Saturday. In terms of the design, the interior traffic layout, the traffic circulation plan has undergone several revisions during its review with the planning board. All the current parking stalls, traffic aisle widths, and curb cuts do comply with the requirements of the town code. However, I do note that the site plan does create a choke point at the southern portion of the property, which could create congestion during peak hours and make it difficult for a vehicle to exit to Osborne or Old Country Road. I will go into that a little bit further down the report. Again, the intensity of the proposed specially permitted use is justified in light of similar uses within the zoning district. Although there are no other drive-in curbside restaurants along Old Country Road, the proposed specially permitted use is in harmony with the town's main commercial corridor, as there are a number of fast food restaurants and similar commercial sites. In terms of access to and from the site plan currently proposes unrestricted ingress and right-only egress along Old Country Road, as well as a one-way ingress and one-way egress along Osborne Avenue. The proposed curb cuts along Osborne will require a permit from the Riverhead Highway Department, and the proposed improvements within the Old Country Road right-of-way will require a permit from Suffolk County DPW. Speaking to the specifics of the traffic impact statement provided by the applicant, they did provide a TIS prepared by R&M Engineering, signed and sealed by Wayne Muller, professional engineer, last updated June 2020. The TIS analyzed the proposed development and assessed its impacts to the traffic patterns in the vicinity of the site, and took into account other planned projects in the area, including the Garston Retail Center, which is currently under construction, as well as the proposed Long Island Cauliflower Retail Association Center. The TIS concluded that the introduction of the increased level of traffic from the proposed development would not pose any significant negative impacts on the operation of the existing roadway. The TIS did identify that the level of service at the Old Country Road and Osborne Avenue intersection will remain at a B as in boy rating, and it did not require any additional traffic mitigation measures. One significant concern that staff had during the review of this project was the potential for a novelty phase during the opening of the restaurant. The TIS did provide an analysis of anticipated queuing volumes at prior Sonic restaurants on Long Island, and noted that this would be the 5th Sonic restaurant on the island, and therefore they made the assumption that the novelty phase would not be expected to be as significant as with other locations. However, I do note that this is the next closest Sonic restaurant to Riverhead is currently located in Nesconset, approximately 25 miles away, with several other restaurants being located further west in Suffolk and in Nassau. As this is the case, this would serve a differently and distinct geographic area, and it's unclear whether this novelty phase would be anticipated, as this would effectively be the first and only Sonic serving the eastern end of Long Island. That's something that the town board should really consider in terms of mitigation. One of the concerns that the planning board raised during its initial review was the potential for queuing traffic to be backed up into Osborne Avenue and potentially block access to the Riverhead Volunteer Ambulance Center. The site plan does currently propose no standing anytime signs along Osborne Avenue road frontage, and the applicant has stated that at previous planning board meetings that they would provide staff to help mitigate that potential issue. I did note that I scaled out the plans, and before, there would need to be approximately 34 vehicles queued up through the drive-in lane before traffic would back out onto Osborne Avenue. So while that is a significant amount of traffic, that should be taken into consideration by the board. In terms of the queuing traffic pattern for the proposed Sonic, patrons utilizing the drive-through would drive along the eastern side of the building, wrap around the north side of the building, place their order, and then receive their order at the western side of the building. When I scaled the plans, as I said, it would take approximately 34 vehicles before traffic would back up onto Osborne, and it would be approximately 22 or 23 cars that would need to be in that queuing lane before traffic would back up onto Old Country Road. I do note that the TIS was last updated in June 2020, and I do note anecdotally that during the coronavirus pandemic that we're currently experiencing, it does appear as though fast food restaurants have experienced a great increase in the number of drive-through and drive-in traffic. I'm not 100% sure whether that was fully captured in the TIS, but I think the applicant's traffic engineer can speak to the specifics and what was updated from their traffic impact statement. I do note that there would be some in the southern portion of the property. There is the potential for congestion at the site. Scaling the plan, I apologize. So the queuing, the traffic circulation along the southern site, if someone were to exit the site to go towards Osborne Avenue, or if they needed to travel east on Old Country Road, the only way to get there would be to loop around the south side of the building and exit back onto Osborne. Now, the southern traffic driveway on that site does seem a little bit tight. Now, it could create the situation where creates a traffic jam if somebody needs to get back out to Osborne. It could be difficult if there's a number of cars queued in line. I did make one recommendation that this could be alleviated by eliminating 2 of the drive-in stalls widening that traffic circulation pattern on the southern site to allow for pass-by traffic. In terms of water, as I said, it's going to be connected to the water district. We did receive comments from the Riverhead Water District in emails, in letters dated October 25th, 2018, as well as a follow-up email from October 27th of this year. They just had comments that the meter and RPZ inside the proposed Sonic are acceptable, as well as the proposed RPZ and meter vault for future use. All those plans are consistent with the plans that they've reviewed up until this point. The project was reviewed by the Conservation Advisory Council by letter dated October 20th, 2017. The CIC recommended approval of the application because it is located within a 150-foot jurisdiction of a Town of Riverhead and DEC freshwater regulated wetland. They had comments regarding the interim landscaping plan. They had specific recommendations as to the type of grass that would be planted in the interim area. And they conditioned it that they need to receive the required New York State DEC approvals. The project was reviewed by the Architectural Review Board in its August 23rd, 2017 meeting, and the ARB did recommend approval of the project as is, with a note that the signage would require a separate application through the building department. I do note that the ARB reviewed the proposed elevations for the Sonic building and not for the proposed retail building. The applicant is proposing a phased development. Prior to issuance of any building permits on that retail building, they would need to provide elevations and they would need to get ARB approval for that. As I stated, it is within the jurisdiction of a New York State DEC freshwater regulated wetland, and as such, they will need an Article 24 permit for the proposed improvements within that jurisdictional area. We did receive comments from the Suffolk County DPW, pretty generic comments from them. We did receive comments from the fire marshal. They were comments from November 9th, 2015. Their comments were that the plans need to show drainage and all curbing and entrances and exits shall be mountable, and the widths of the entrance and exit on Osborne Avenue shall be shown. The plans have been revised to include all of those requirements from the fire marshal. That's all I've got for now. I'd like to open it up to the board if they have any questions, or for me or for the applicant.
Yeah, I have a question. Thank you. It appears you did quite a thorough job. I know the next item up, we're gonna be discussing a fire marshal's report.
Mm-hmm.
Is it possible that the building department, when they provide a staff report, can attach the fire marshal's report?
Yes, we can do that.
And we'll address that later on in the next one, but I think it's, it would just be good for everyone to see what they have.
To actually have the document attached.
Yes.
All right.
Okay, as part of, Jeff, I don't see a problem with that, correct?
No.
Whatever the fire marshal, okay, perfect. Does the board have any, questions? Jody,
I
I
have
know
a
you do.
few.
Oh, incidentally, can you, in case the public does not understand what a Sonic facility is, can you describe what kind of food, what it's all about?
Sonic is a fast food restaurant. I believe it's called America's Drive-In. There is a interior seating component, but one of the main draws for the Sonic is the drive-in curb hop sort of service. You pull into a stall, it's under a covered canopy. There's an order screen. You'd place your order through a intercom system, and they have employees who bring your order out to your car.
So it's our new normal.
Yeah, they were
Addressing the new
they were a bit
normal.
ahead of the curve on that one, but yeah.
Okay.
How many Sonics have drive-throughs where instead of just the canopied driving under with service to the car, how many actually have drive-throughs?
Jody, are you asking us that?
Yes.
I think that, well, Mr. Giuliani can address that better than I can, but they're all drive-throughs with this setup, similar setup. The interesting part is there's a new one going to be opened in Shirley, and that's going to be opened relatively quickly. So this is the standard model for Sonic across Long Island, but Mr. Giuliani, perhaps you could address that, because there's a bunch of different things I'd like to address from the staff report.
Yes, just to Sean's point, yes, every Sonic that we have done has had a drive-through.
Okay, but
And we've been involved in all the Sonics on Long Island. That is their corporate standard.
how many are there on Long Island?
I think there's 5 now, and there's one more coming in Shirley.
And then are those going in sites where there was previously a fast food restaurant, or are they vacant land that you're, building new on?
The East Meadow location was a former Burger King. Obviously didn't have outdoor, outdoor,
The Canopy Drive-In?
drive-ins. But, we converted that one and added the drive-ins to it.
Okay.
The others were fresh sites.
Okay. And then, there's just a lot going on here, so I'm concerned about the traffic from the entire site exiting onto Osborne Avenue being right next to the, ambulance. Because the traffic backs up that far now, and so, from the light, and the light coordination has been very difficult. I drive that road every single morning. So,
But before we get into that, I have to say something. Sonic is not part of this application anymore, and we're doing our best to bring them back. When the town board, this was a project that was put forward in 2015, the town board determined that it was a good thing to try to do something with this site from an economic development standpoint, because it was a site that was a difficult site, as Councilwoman Giglio was talking about, to have any sort of economic development on it. So in the town board's bid to increase tax base along Route 58, we, at the time, amended the zoning to allow this. But what has happened, and it's reflected sort of in the fact that you're sending us back to the ARB, Sonic left. Sonic felt that River had, it troubles me to say this, but they weren't moving quick enough, and it was a little bit of an anti-business climate. So when Mr. Tosini, who owns the property, came to me, he said, do you think we can get this project resurrected? So we started about this time last year, and we would have been much further along with the town board, but for COVID. And what we did is we stripped the Sonic name off of everything, trying to get the approval. And then if the town board will, allow this to happen, the zoning board and the planning board, we will then try to attract Sonic back. But at this point, Sonic is not necessarily the restaurant applicant here. It is being billed as a plain vanilla outfit, and I guess it really depends on how the town board, whether they want Sonic or not.
okay, I guess,
because-
back to what I was, I'm sorry,
Well,
Sean. I just
there's
think
one
there's
other-
too much traffic for the site coming out onto Osborne Avenue. So whether it's Sonic, whether it's another restaurant, whether it's whatever it is, I mean, I was on the town board with you in 2015, and the idea was to get Sonic to come, which is why we allowed the drive-through, I believe. But it's, I'm just concerned about all the traffic coming out, with the drive-through, with the canopy, with all the parking on the Sonic side. I think the one-story, 5,000 square foot retail part should only be able to exit onto Route 58.
All right, I want one more point, and then Mr. Mueller, I think, can address some of this. And Mr. Giuliani, we're doing a phased approach to this. There isn't a tenant for the 5,000 square foot store. What we were talking about was similar to a cell phone store. So the site will be built out, but in a phased approach. The parking and the asphalt will be built, but the second store may not be built immediately. So if there is a novelty, which is, Councilwoman Giglio, you're correct, that is a busy intersection. But if there is a novelty period, that second store won't be occupied at the time, because again, we're building this as a phased approach. So Sonic, if they come, would be first, the retail store would be second.
That's okay,
So,
I'm
Mr.
just saying, I think that when you're coming out of the, drive-through, and you're coming out of the north side of the site, rather than being able to circle back around and go through all this canopy parking and all the other parking, you know, across all these crosswalks, that if, that just the Sonic traffic, or whatever that building's gonna be, were to exit on Osborne Avenue, and the retail space to exit onto Old Country Road, if you could divide it, like right after where, you know, right where the drive-through is, like, so that those people that are circulating around the Sonic site would just continue straight and make a left and go out onto Osborne Avenue. They couldn't go out onto Old Country Road, and the people that are leaving the retail space could go directly out onto Old Country Road. Kinda like building a curb or something there. There's just, I'm concerned about all the traffic from the retail space leaving onto Osborne Avenue and exasperating the situation.
Mr.
So it's
Giuliani,
just curbing right there, that's all. You would just continue the existing curb in front of the parking on the 5,000 square foot space on the east side.
Mhm.
You would just continue that curb all the way up to Old Country Road, so all those people would have to exit onto Old Country Road.
Yeah, the downside to doing that, as far as I see it, is what that does is it prevents anyone from accessing the site from, accessing the restaurant site from Old Country Road, and forces all that traffic onto Osborne Avenue.
Okay, so then maybe
Which-
you just do an exit only from the north side and the west side of the drive-through, and that parking on the north side and the west side. You do an exit only, and you continue that stop right there so that those people can get out, but the people that are on the east side of that line can't get out onto Old Country Road.
Again, I think any provision that we make on site that would restrict where the traffic can leave the site is, while it will, to a certain extent, ease on-site circulation, have fewer decisions for the people on site to make, what that is gonna do for you in the long run is it's just gonna force more traffic onto Osborne Avenue, and congest that intersection. Now, I guess Wayne probably can, being a traffic engineer, could probably speak to that better than I can. But that's how I see it, that, the additional traffic that would generate on Osborne, which is a narrow road and probably wouldn't benefit from it, would actually deteriorate the condition of that traffic light from Osborne approach,
I'm saying that the
would
people,
outweigh the benefit that we'd get on site.
I'm saying that the people that are exiting from the drive-through and from that parking on the north side of the site could go out onto Old Country Road if they wanted to, or they could go straight. I don't know, I'm concerned about, how many spaces do they need for the 5,000 square foot building? And how many are in that area?
So the 5,000 per town code, retail is parked at one parking space per 250 square feet. So a 5,000 square foot use would require 20 parking stalls.
And it looks like they have that.
No, I mean, I did recommend widening the traffic circulation pattern just to allow for two-way traffic. I mean, is it possible, the applicant may want to consider scaling back the 5,000 square foot building, that if, just throwing, round numbers out, if they reduce the size of the building by 1,000 square feet, that would remove 1,000 square feet of the building. They would then not require, they could take away 4 parking stalls, which would widen up that bank of parking stalls, I guess, to the south of the proposed retail building, would allow them to widen that to allow for pass-by traffic. But just to clarify, Councilwoman, are you kind of getting at that the Sonic traffic should be relegated to exiting onto Osborne Avenue and not exit through Old Country Road?
I'm saying that the parking spaces that are on the north side of the site, on the northwest side of the site,
All right.
and the drive-through traffic could be able to exit through the Old Country Road or continue around, but making that one way out. It's, instead of, I guess it is drawn like that, but
Yeah, they
it
can go
looks
either
like,
way on the map.
Yeah.
and they can go,
Yeah, so right now, traffic, if you're driving around the building, if you go to the drive-in stall, so you're on the northwest side of the building, you can either right now circulate down south, you can exit west onto Old Country Road, or if you need to get to Osborne Avenue to either go east on Old Country or onto Osborne, you would travel around the south side, come around that loop, which again, that's one of the recommendations why I'd recommend deleting 2 of those stalls to just allow for enough traffic pass-by pattern to allow someone to prevent congestion on the site, to allow them to either go to Old Country Road or circle up to Osborne.
Right, but I guess it's the Old Country Road traffic, it's the Old Country Road traffic that is going to be going westbound, and that they would have the opportunity to access the Sonic site from Old Country Road rather than from Osborne Avenue. Or they could go into the 5,000 square foot retail space and park there and walk across. It's this arrow right here that I'm having a problem with, Greg. Because either, it's this one right here that I'm having a problem with. Because if this was here and they could get out here, then these people that are leaving here can't go this way to get out and go over all these crosswalks and come out onto Osborne Avenue. So it's
So
this,
they would be stopped here if they, you know.
and then they would have to go straight out this way.
Correct, straight out, and that's why I'm recommending delete 2 of these stalls to allow, so if someone is coming out here, they could then pass by safely. If there was queued, you know, I kind of scaled this out.
I think all the traffic's gonna come out onto Osborne Avenue. That's what I'm afraid of. So, and we can discuss it further, Sean, I'd be more than happy to discuss it with you, but that was one concern I had. I will also have the concern, as Greg does, about the crosswalks and the amount of traffic that could potentially go through there, which is going to be getting the people from the building, whether it be Sonic people or somebody else that's gonna be delivering food to all this canopied parking where the people will be. I just think there's just potential for, I don't like all the traffic coming out onto Osborne Avenue. Then, when it comes, are there any easements, like, I see the water district owns the property to the west? Or it's now or formerly, so that's
Yeah,
owner,
that's the municipal garage site located to the west.
That's municipal garage.
So I have a couple questions.
Can I finish first and then?
Sure, I thought.
No, and then, the outdoor patio being in the back of the building, is there any way that that could be in the front of the building on Osborne Avenue? 'Cause I really.
That is actually, functionally, that is the front of the building. That is the front of the building facing Old Country Road. The way the building is set up inside, back of house is to the northeast. And then you have, as you go southwest, you have, you know, back of house, you have the service counter, then you have the indoor seating, and then the patio. It's a standard Sonic building. Everything's all in line.
I'm just saying if you
They build the building
flipped it.
specifically very narrow with the patio out front. And functionally, you have all the food coming out the doors that are on the southwest side of that building. You have all the car hops are actually, if you're sitting on the patio, the car hops are bringing your food to you out on the patio. If you're sitting out in the drive-ins, they're bringing your food out to you in your car in the drive-ins. But they're all coming out of that southwest end of the building.
So
The
you
back
can't
is
mirror
really
the
back
building and
house.
put the patio on Osborne Avenue?
I mean, that's the kitchen, the cooler, the storage, that's all what's going on back there.
Yeah, you just gotta flip it.
To
I don't
put
like
the
the
patio
dumpster.
back
I don't
there
like the transformer.
would be a non-standard building, for Sonic, and also in terms of, function, that would then be, you'd have the car hops who are bringing your food to you on the patio would then be having to go in an opposite direction,
Yeah. I'd rather-
on site, you know, along that sidewalk.
Yeah, that's what
right
I'm saying,
adjacent.
kind of flip the whole site and do the canopy parking on the other side, away from all these parking spaces and all this traffic circulation, it's right in the middle of it. And also, the transformer pad on Osborne Avenue, you know, I'm not crazy about that location, I'm not crazy about the dumpster location on Osborne Avenue. I think that the whole thing needs to be just turned the other way. I mean, and I've seen at the Starbucks, where the Starbucks is on Old Country Road in front of the Dick's, this is the same traffic circulation, and it's problematic there. So I don't wanna, you know, recreate something that's not working now.
And that's understandable. Wayne, maybe you could answer that, but I would like to point out that the biggest difference between a Starbucks and a Sonic is that, Starbucks doesn't have staff outside the building on a regular basis that can see and react to any on-site traffic conditions that come up.
Understood, but the people that work in Sonic are gonna be walking across a very busy roadway if there's traffic coming out from the retail building and then also from the Sonic site.
All right, Wayne, I'll leave that, and Wayne, you're still muted.
So if I understand correctly, again, Wayne Muller, Robinson and Muller Engineering, our offices are at 50 Elm Street in Huntington, and we've worked with the Laurel Group on many of the Sonic locations that were constructed on Long Island. And their operation is unique to the fast food industry because it has those car hop stalls. But if I understand correctly, it seems to me that the major concern is that little four-way internal intersection that's just south of the 5,000 square foot pad building where you have the entrance and the exit on Old Country Road, the entrance and the exit to and from the Sonic, and then two driveways to the 5,000 square foot retail building. So I think that if we could take a look at that and possibly enhance the operation of the access to and from the retail building, which will then eliminate some of the confusion that could possibly present itself in that area. One alternative would be to create one-way circulation to the retail building.
Yeah.
So if you were to come in off of Old Country Road, you would go straight into the retail building and then circulate in a counterclockwise fashion through the parking lot and then come out opposite the traffic from Sonic.
Yes,
One solution?
yes,
So we would narrow that driveway a little bit and just create a one-way circulation in and through.
one-way circulation out of Sonic.
Yep, so you would have the ability from Sonic to circulate around the building and through the property in a counterclockwise fashion that currently is afforded. And then, instead of having that very wide driveway, which is just, I guess, just parallel to Old Country Road, possibly make that an entrance only. Tony, what do you think about that? So
We still do need that for the truck circulation, so I don't know that that would work. We still need to keep that open.
So you need the entrance and the exit to the 5,000 square foot building.
The two-way there with the stop sign and the pork chop area there, stop on the pork chop, that would be where the trucks are going through to exit the site. That'd be coming in off of Osborne and exiting onto Old Country Road.
They would be able to still do that.
Not if we narrow it, as Wayne was suggesting.
Is there any way to share a screen on this, or? We have that capability, or?
How does he? Yes, you should be able to do that from your terminal.
Tony, if you could pull up the site plan, I think that would probably be the. So we
Wayne,
can,
if you wanna point to it, you need to pull it up yourself so that you can have,
yeah.
you have to share your screen.
I think I got it. Right here the other day. Okay, so how would I share my screen? I guess. Share. Is that working?
Yeah.
Yep.
You're getting there.
Wow.
There we go. Now you want, expand that. There we go. Oh,
Does that work?
Yeah, I guess if we can just expand, zoom in a little bit
that
on
area.
the traffic circulation area that we're talking about.
nope. Oh,
So it's my understanding that we're talking about this area right here.
Yes,
And all I was saying was make this area one way, that way, so the cars would come in, circulate, and come back around out this way.
right. And the one stop sign that you have, or the stop line that you have, that's, coming
Well, this-
out of Sonic would be an exit only onto Old Country Road, or the Sonic people could continue and travel out onto Osborne Avenue. So it's, I don't
Okay,
want the people from Old Country Road that are visiting that 5,000 square foot building to come in on Osborne Avenue and all the traffic to be able to exit onto Osborne Avenue.
Well,
It's the one arrow that's just to the south of that stop, that
Yeah.
one, that bothers me.
Well, I guess the reason for that is that if someone's coming on Old Country Road, they make a left into the site, and they wanna go to Sonic, they kinda pull in, then come around. If there's a stall available here, they'll pull in, or they'll pull around the site to the drive-through. So this is to allow traffic to enter from, either make a right turn and come in to the Sonic, or a left turn to come in.
And that's
My-
that's what's problematic to me. It's the left turn from the westbound people making a left from Old Country Road to get into Sonic, when they can go to the light.
Well, but it seems to me like if that's the case, you'd inherently be putting all the traffic onto Osborne Avenue, whereas
Sonic.
instead of having,
Only for Sonic.
but I mean, it's still the way that the way the site functions. We look at the site as a whole. So I mean, you'd be removing Sonic traffic from Old Country Road and putting it all onto Osborne Avenue, which I mean, that would require, you know, I don't know what the outcome of a TIS would be, but you're changing, you know, the main access to the site. I mean, it may be more detrimental to the Osborne Avenue intersection to not allow access from Old Country Road.
The light controls it. I'm concerned about all the traffic potentially going out onto Osborne Avenue, which is what I see from this design. That's why that one arrow, if you could contain the retail space to where, you know, I don't like the left turn from the westbound into the site for all the people that are going to Sonic. It's problematic at the Taco Bell. It hasn't been a recommendation from Suffolk County DPW as far as the Lowe's building. I mean, we had to fix that intersection. And put a traffic light there, because it was problematic. So I just see recreating the same things. I think that if you're gonna go to that 5,000 square foot retail space and you're coming from the westbound and you wanna make a left in, but there's how many parking spaces on this whole site?
I believe 66 total, and that's encompassing everything that's required for the retail, encompassing the 22 drive-in canopies, and the remainder of the parking for the restaurant site.
Yeah, so I think that with I'm concerned about all the traffic coming out onto Osborne Avenue, and especially from the retail space you're just adding to it. So that is a concern, whether it can work or not, or whether the board feels the same way, you know, that's up to them, but the transformer on Osborne Avenue being, you know, 10 feet off, and the dumpster being 10 feet off, I've seen problems with that too, with, garbage flooding out onto the roads. I'd rather see it somewhere internally in the site, perhaps behind the 5,000 square foot retail building. You have all the crosswalks going from the restaurant to that 5,000 square foot building, so why can't the dumpster pad and the transformer go behind the 5,000 square foot building?
Storage shed and the dumpster location.
If that's where everybody's coming out of the restaurant anyway, the employees, then why can't they go behind the building? Behind the 5,000 square foot building? Because you know what, this dumpster is gonna be a problem when the garbage people come to pick it up, cause it's a problem right now at Starbucks. That dumpster location is going to be a problem when the truck comes in and tries to back up to it and then, or pull up to it, and it's,
What is the problem that, you know, just maybe we could,
the
figure a solution
location,
if we knew exactly what the problem was?
the location. I mean, the Starbucks,
No.
the gates are open all the time and they're never closed cause the dumpster companies don't wanna get out and open up the gates. And I think it looks trashy, literally, so I would want the dumpster to be somewhere else.
Sure, we're talking about a masonry trash enclosure here. It's not like we've got some, you know, cheap-looking fence up there. They actually do a nice job on it. They do keep the gates closed. I've been to, the North Babylon Sonic location frequently because, it's near my parents' home. And so I travel past it frequently. I've never seen the gates open ever, unless someone was actually bringing trash out to the trash enclosure.
Okay, well, I'm
It's-
gonna
it's well
drive by
maintained.
some of these
Car
other
hops-
Sonics.
The car hops are out in the lot picking up trash themselves. That's one of their duties. If there's nobody, waiting for food to be brought to them specifically, they're out there picking up the trash. Sonic is very good at housekeeping on their sites.
Tony, I don't know who has control of the screen right now, but I know that within the architectural elevations that you guys provided, there was a detail of that trash enclosure.
Yes, there was.
Maybe-
Wayne's got the screen right now, but.
Let me just-
Yeah, I don't know if someone can pull up, I don't know if Wayne will have it, but the architectural elevations for that trash enclosure.
And it doesn't make sense to me that you're gonna have a 5,000 square foot retail space that's going to use that same dumpster enclosure, and that those people have to walk from this building through the Sonic parking lot to get to that dumpster.
I don't think I have the architecturals. I do not.
All right, if they don't have that, I can provide that to the board, but they are proposing a masonry enclosure. It's not just like a fence with a gate on it. It's like a masonry red brick trash
I
enclosure.
think that the Starbucks is a masonry enclosure also with the
Yeah.
fence in the front. But it's the location of the dumpster that I'm having a problem with, because I can't see the people from the 5,000 square foot space with cardboard boxes and all of their garbage from a retail business walking through all this traffic to get to the dumpster.
Okay, I mean, we can certainly look at providing them their own trash enclosure, small trash enclosure. If Wayne, maybe you could zoom into the handicap spot that's at the northeast corner of the 5,000 square foot retail. I mean, we can probably tuck a small trash enclosure for them, in that area, adjacent to the sidewalk there. But, it really, how frequently, we're assuming this right now is going to be something like a phone store, an electronics store, something along those lines. Their trash needs aren't really gonna be that great, and they would mostly be taking out the trash at the end of the shift. It's not like you've got somebody coming in and out all day, with large bags of trash here.
Yeah, so the only use that we can really confirm is the restaurant use. We don't know
Yes,
what
that's
this
correct.
building is gonna be 20 years from now, whether they have garbage or not.
Correct. I mean, we can certainly look at giving them a small trash enclosure there as well.
Yeah, because the
Right
limit of
adjacent.
regrading is the whole back of the building is going to be regraded.
Jody, I think that you have some valid concerns, and I think that, I like the idea that you offer to, speak to, the engineers here and move it forward, but I think
But I
there
think
is
it's
some
important for
concern.
the board to be here, just in case I'm not here when you go to approve it, that you
Yeah, but
know what my
eventually-
concerns are.
Right, and then eventually they're gonna present it back to us.
Yep,
So we're gonna
and I
have-
won't be here, so
so-
you won't know what I discussed with them unless I
Yeah.
discuss it now.
Okay, you can, it just,
Okay.
I think there's some work to be done here.
Okay. And we don't even know if it's gonna be a Sonic, which is what we were trying to draw here to begin with.
Are you finished with your question?
Yes, I'm done.
Okay, so that, actually Jody just mentioned my first question. So, we're looking at this, but there is a possibility that this will not be a Sonic, correct?
That is correct.
But wouldn't that, a Sonic uses more outdoor drive-up space than other, restaurants, fast food restaurants, wouldn't that really alter the site plan?
It would, the owner has taken over the application from the original Sonic proponents. And again, he's hoping that Riverhead wants to attract Sonic here, so he's hoping that this will be approved and that Sonic will come, because they are still building, and they're building in Shirley as we speak. So if it's not a Sonic, yes, and I have had a conversation with Mr. Tassini that this would have to be redesigned. And on the issue of the enclosure for the dumpster, that could be drawn in. That may save some time, because if this was a retail store that required more than a few bags of trash a day that we were anticipating walking across the parking lot, we could put the trash enclosure in now. But there is always the possibility that 5,000 square foot retail, which is again a phased build, we could be in for a second site plan approval from the, with this, that would be the planning board.
I'm just thinking that if it's not a Sonic, wouldn't that really alter everything?
Well,
And
so-
we're looking at it now, and it might actually end up being something quite different. I know you wanna get a Sonic, but,
So the town board is here considering a special permit. Within the town code criteria, the town code does speak to duration of a special permit when it's granted. It can be anywhere, you can require the applicant to establish the use and construct the use anywhere from within 1 year to 3 years. I think your concern, right now, as I understand it, Mr. Walter, they're trying to get the permits and the approvals in place so that they can say to Sonic, hey, Sonic, here we go, we have this proposed location for you, we've got the approvals. If they're not gonna attract a Sonic client, I mean, I can't speak to their intent, but I don't think you'd build a Sonic site and hope to lure some other type of fast food, it's like
right.
the other business doesn't exist. So I mean, if they wanted to come in with a different proposal, it would be under a different site plan application. If they want to just do any other fast food restaurant with a drive-through, they could just come in for a different site plan application. But the town board is,
Correct. The other ones
town
we-
board's being asked to grant a special permit for this. If they don't get Sonic, I don't see how it would behoove them to build the site as a Sonic.
Well, can we grant the special permit contingent upon the Sonic coming, and then if it's something else, then they have to come back for a new special permit? Jeff
Well, they would
Murphy's
have to
saying
come
no.
back.
Yeah,
and
I don't think we
do a
can
site plan.
dictate to a specific client, I mean, we can,
can't do
the
No,
town
but
board's,
the-
town board's
but
approving the special permit use.
Everything could really change, this is not.
Well,
this
so what
this
exactly is
not
the
putting-
concern? Because
putting the cart
the
before
way
the
I'm
horse.
saying, if they don't get Sonic to come in here, I don't believe they would build the site. So what's the concern that you would be trying to mitigate? If they're gonna change the site, it's gonna be a new application.
Correct.
Okay, well, that's what I'm trying to.
Yeah,
clear up.
that's kind, yeah, I don't,
All right, let me,
if-
can I clear that up? If Sonic does not come, my conversations with our client, my client has been that they would not build it. What they would try to do then is concentrate on the 5,000 square foot retail building, and try to get a tenant for that. And, that would then become phase one, and the Sonic, would probably disappear unless some other restaurant company comes up and says that they want to build something like Sonic's business model. I would agree that this is not going to get built, and they will concentrate on the 5,000 and submit a new application.
I didn't see, is there tree clearing involved?
yes, there would be tree clearing right now.
Is that, I looked through here, I didn't see it, is that in here? Did I miss it?
No, I mean, it's, the parcel is partially wooded right now. I mean, it would require tree cutting.
How much?
I
That'll
don't,
be on the, removals plan, sheet 2.
Okay,
E2?
Yeah. Sheet C2.
do you have that somewhere?
yes, I don't have I just distributed to the board just a generic site layout and the landscaping plan.
Is this it?
Yeah, that's it. Wayne, if you could zoom in there a little bit,
Which portion over here?
I need a
Yeah,
magnifying
right there.
glass for this.
you can see there the trees that are being removed. They're actually individually tagged.
And
No,
there
this
is, there
is
is,
already-
there is some
it's already
scrub
been
brush
brought.
throughout the site.
The,
Is it?
we've had an environmentalist out here to identify what trees need to be saved and trees need to be removed.
Yeah, I just would like to know, I mean, I could,
Catherine, on page
Account
3, you
on-
can kind of see,
Yeah, it's all reflected in the DEC
yeah,
permit.
I'm looking at it.
no, on the staff report, you can kind of see the
On
trees.
the-
Yeah,
on
that's where I
aerial.
saw that there were that's where I saw that there were definitely gonna be trees removed. This page means,
Yes.
yeah. I just wondered how many.
I guess we could count them.
I mean,
It's
this goes-
really,
You know what would be helpful
guess I'll
is
know what
if,
you're doing today.
what would be helpful is if you did an overlay over the current aerial.
Do we have that?
I mean, we could do one. We really don't have any flexibility with the trees here that are being removed. As I said, we already kicked this around with the state DEC. What I will say is the number of trees that were being removed is, the number of trees that are being removed are fewer than the number of trees that we're putting in, if you look at the landscaping plan. You know,
I just counted 17 trees up in the corner near the water district property. I mean, it's not a significant number of trees at all.
Well, that's what I wanted
So,
to know.
But the
Yeah, maybe, I mean,
transformer
that's what
location
I counted 17.
I don't know, I just, so you have 66 parking spaces for just that restaurant?
And it wasn't finished.
It's for the overall site is, and I think it's 61, if I'm not mistaken. Let me check.
61, so,
Yeah, it's 61 required, 61 proposed.
So just to finish my questions,
sorry.
will we get comments from all the other agencies? I don't see the comments. Do you have the comments from this was at planning board, even though it's been a few years?
I mean, there's a number of staff reports I could produce. I could get copies of the minutes of the meeting, if you'd like to review them.
I'd just like to see what the other agencies say, just so that we can all coordinate.
All right, I mean, I will get you a copy of the minutes. I did incorporate some of the comments from
Yeah, I saw
DPW, et
that.
cetera. So yeah, I can provide the minutes for you if you'd like.
And I'd like to see the letter from the, fire marshal, but you did incorporate that.
Correct.
I think that was all I had right now. Oh, I want to agree, I totally agree on the, I don't think, one dumpster is sufficient for this big of a proposal. And I think it would be a mess.
Like a compactor maybe.
Okay, the applicant said that they are gonna address that.
And then the exit, is that lining up with the Agway site across the street?
Yes, it is.
So it's in line with that, so the
Yes.
people coming out of Agway and the people, coming out of,
Yeah, the exit lines up with the inbound. Someone could drive straight across, from the exit and drive into Agway, yes. Someone driving out of Agway couldn't go directly across, but that's by design because it's a one-way out.
Right, this is out only, in only.
the lot on 1.25 acre site.
Okay.
Okay.
Frank, Tim, anything further? We're done with this? I just wanna make a quick note. I want to extend an early and unofficial pending Board of Elections certification. Congratulations to Sean Walter on his win for town justice. Sean, you will have big shoes to fill, left vacant by the passing of Justice Smith. But I have every confidence in you that you will be an effective and fair justice.
Supervisor, thank you very much. I do have Kim Judd on the, she has been listening to this, and I believe Kim Judd will be picking up where I'm leaving off with this application. So before we go forward, what do you want, because there were some things we wanted to discuss with you. A lot of them we did discuss, but what do you want to see from us before we prepare this for public hearing?
I think that you have to, Councilwoman Giglio has offered to give some insight. I think you should work with her, and she should also, work with the, department, and any adjustments that you make them, and then, bring it back for, work session, and we'll schedule a public hearing. I think that's the best course. Does the board agree with me on that?
Yeah, and
Building-
if
I mean,
it's
I
not
think
too
it's
much
always
trouble,
good to have-
I'd like to see the EAF,
Yes.
Okay.
if that's easy to forward, I'd like
absolutely.
to see that.
And I think
I'm
it's good
just-
to have public I mean, I have no problem with scheduling a public hearing. It's good to get public comment back and see if they have the same concerns that I do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm concerned with Osborne Avenue as well. I think that's already a traffic nightmare, and being so close to, the volunteer fire, ambulance, that's another concern, safety concern.
And the people coming out of the gas station that are trying to get onto Osborne, and it's just, it's a lot for
But,
that little.
that being said, I would love to see a Sonic come.
Well, yeah,
Well, why have a public hearing when you have to make adjustments and then come back?
I agree with the supervisor,
Yeah.
I'd like to see it at a work session again, just 'cause we have a few kinks to work out, and that'd be great.
Well, if we're gonna have a public hearing, I think the applicant, because there were some concerns that the board raised about that four-way intersection, we should receive revised plans. If we're gonna hold a public
Exactly.
hearing, we're holding a plan, holding a public hearing on a specific plan.
Okay.
So I mean, I think the applicant widened some of those traffic circulation aisles. It sounds like provide a dumpster for the 5,000 square foot retail plan, redesign that four-way intersection to be kind of one-way in, out. I think we could then come back for the board if their concerns are addressed, then schedule a public hearing, so we're consistent on what
We'll
we're.
see that at another work session. Sounds good.
But before we schedule a
Well,
public
get
hearing.
it all tied up, and if you have to do a
Correct.
revised site plan, and Jody's, is gonna be speaking and working with them, and whatever Councilwoman Kent suggested has to be, whatever documents you wanted, and then we'll bring it back to a work session, and then we'll schedule, the public hearing. I think it's the most effective,
Mike,
method.
Okay, I'm good with that.
I'm not quite sure what the conversation, I can't hear everybody. My prayer would be to schedule the public hearing now, because you're asking for a redesign now, and then we go to public hearing. That, there may be a redesign after public hearing. We know what your comments are now. Is there a way to go to public hearing in December now on this plan, knowing what your comments are, and we will address them in the public hearing, but then that way we're only going to the drawing table once after the public hearing. So we can take your comments and we can take the comments of the public and redesign it one time, as opposed to redesign it now, come back to work session, go to public hearing, redesign it again, potentially go back to work session. So is there enough detail here that we could go to public hearing now, knowing that we're going to put an extra dumpster in, and we're going to have to potentially move some of the change some of the traffic flow?
I mean, our planning director is in the back shaking his head yes. I don't know where.
I never think
that-
it's usually a quick turnaround. We have work sessions every week. I don't think it would hold things up. I understand your point, but.
No, it's just a lot of extra work for the applicant and money. I mean, it's.
Going back to the drawing board and going back to the drawing board and going back to the drawing board.
I mean, I'd be okay with that. If the board agrees, I can prepare a resolution to schedule a public hearing on it, and I agree with Mr. Walter's comments that instead of doing two sets of revisions, incorporate all of your concerns as they're aware of, and then incorporate anything
Public.
the public may.
Okay, I'll support
Raise.
that.
Yeah.
Yes, I'll support that.
All right, so I'll prepare a
Alright.
resolution for the next meeting, and we'll get the dates.
Yes.
And I'd
That's when
like
the
to-
comments can be addressed again, and if changes need to be made, then they'll be made at that time.
Okay, yes.
And I'd also like to see from the highway superintendent, something, his concerns on this matter also.
Okay.
Right.
All right, that's
Thank you.
fantastic, and we'll have all our experts there together, so that we can address the concerns, because also a lot of the things that you're asking are site plan related, and maybe some of the things that you're asking had been dictated by the site plan, by the planning board. So I think it would be good to go to the public hearing now, then we will go to the planning board in the not too distant future, I'm assuming, Greg, and try to wrap everything up into one final special permit and technical site plan approval, because a lot of the stuff you're asking for, the planning board is going to be passing judgment on as well. So if we could do the public hearing now, my point is that would be wonderful.
Okay.
Right.
We agree.
All right, we'll prepare that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Be safe.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Item number 2, before we delve into our next discussion item concerning building planning, matters concerning 48 Cromer Avenue, I want to make a few comments. This matter was put forth today to address some concerns, one being a memo from the fire marshal dated January 16, 1918. I have asked the attorney's office to look into this matter. On February 13, a memo was, the matter was discussed here in work session, and during the staff report, a memo was related to, and we're gonna try to address, there's some discrepancy on Fire Marshal's journal, and that's why we're here, to have a discussion. But I just wanna give you a little bit of a timeline. On February 13th, before work session, there was a presentation including a staff report prepared by, Karen Gluth, dated February 10th, with the fire marshal memo reference. On February 19, 2020, a town board meeting approved resolution for a negative deck and a notice for a public hearing for a special permit for March 17. COVID canceled the March 17 meeting. On July 16, at a work session, there was a presentation, by the applicant. On July 21st, at a town board meeting, the town board approved the resolution for notice for public hearing for a special permit for August 18th. On August 18th, a town board meeting, a public hearing took place. And on September 15th, at a town board meeting, the town board approved the resolution for the special permit. I have, being that there seemed to be a discrepancy on the, site plan, all the presentation before us, I am requesting that all fire marshal, memos and reports relating to any staff report be included at the end. And I think this should somehow, make it clear so the board can review the fire marshal's report. And, I have here our, planner, Jeff Murphy, and can you please, add to this, concern?
Good morning, everybody. Madam Supervisor, I think you answered a lot of the questions yourself. There was nothing foul afoot in terms of the process that went forward with the review of this application with regard to the fire marshal's office. At that time, they were under my supervision. This application came before the town in a special permit site plan application back in 2018. So if anybody suggests that this application is being fast-tracked, I don't think a 2-year process that's still ongoing is fast-tracking it. Back in January of last year, we did receive a report memo from the Deputy Fire Marshal, David Andruskevich. It was addressed and sent to Karen Gluth, who was the project planner at the time on this application. Craig Zidek, the Chief Fire Marshal, was copied on that application. All of the comments that we received during a site plan or special permit application from outside agencies or department agencies are included in our staff reports. And it was the same in this application as well. All the fire marshal comments were included in all of our reports, so that there was nothing hidden from the public throughout the whole review process. The copy of the fire marshal's memo has some spelling errors. It labeled David as the Chief Fire Marshal. He's not the Chief Fire Marshal. Had the wrong year. He labeled it as 2018. It was really 2019.
Okay.
But nothing of substance. So when we went forward with the special permit and the secret review, all their comments at that point were being considered. Having said that, back in 2018, this application was much, much larger than what you saw during your special permit application and also through the neg deck in your secret review. The application at that point in time had been significantly made much smaller as a result of comments made from DEC. 30% of the site was now being preserved, and they scaled back the size of the development. They removed completely the possibility of rail service at that time, and still remains no longer being proposed by the applicant. After you issued the neg deck and special permit, the site plan application was referred to the planning board for site plan review. The planning board reviewed the application and voiced numerous concerns about the application. I wrote my staff report, which outlined a number of problems with the application in terms of site design and layout. Okay.
Go ahead.
During the course of the review, we had not received revised comments from the outside agencies yet because the application was being amended as we went through the whole review process. It has been subsequently been reduced.
Say that again? Go back and repeat that?
Whenever we review an application, it gets revisions, just as you're seeing the Sonic application.
Yes, yep.
What you saw was probably revision number 6. I'm guessing that's the number. This application's been, Sonic has been revised and revised, and you go back to the planning board, you get comments, you go back, get outside agency comments, it gets revised. And that's why Sean Walter was asking, let's just hold off and make revisions one more time until we get everybody's comments at one time, and they can address them at one time. 48 Cromer has been revised. This is revision at least number 3, that is of substance. And we don't even have those plans yet. Right now, they originally proposed, I would say the last set of plans that you made your secret determination on and issued a special permit on included 9 30,000 gallon tanks for a total of 270,000 gallons. The applicant has now proposed to reduce that to 8 tanks at 30,000 gallons per tank for 240,000 gallons total. We have not seen those plans yet. So right now, the Chief Fire Marshal and nor the Planning Department can comment on that because we don't have those revised plans. The Chief Fire Marshal confers with the Fire Department on all matters, especially as important as this one, and they are going to be working in parallel on reviewing this application. One of the things I've worked on similar applications like this in other jurisdictions, you have to have a fire safety analysis done, and that gets done by a third party. It then gets submitted by the applicant to the town for the review by the Fire Marshal and the Fire Department. We don't have that fire safety analysis submitted to our office. So right now, we don't have a fire safety analysis, we don't have the revised site plans. So right now, Craig Zidek, who's reviewing the application now with the Fire Department, does not have the most latest information to base any comments on. So until we get those comments, the application is sitting idle on our desk right now until we get that revised information. Once we get that revised information, it'll be reviewed by the Fire Marshal, Fire Department, and then depending on what their comments are, it's either going to be forwarded to the Planning Board for its recommendation one way or another. So right now, the application's on hold.
So, we don't have a fire analysis report.
Correct.
Is one in the works?
Yes.
Okay, and who's doing that, do we know?
The applicant is responsible for having that done. He cannot do it himself. There are
Yeah,
a very
sure.
limited number of agencies that do it. I don't have the name of the one that's doing it for them.
Okay, so once that analysis is done, the fire marshal will review it also?
That is correct, and the
And
Fire
that-
Department.
Right, so before it goes before the planning board, which I think this project should go before the planning board,
Correct.
they will have that.
I will not even put it back on the agenda until we get that
Okay,
information.
I just wanted to have your assurance that that's what's gonna happen.
Correct.
Because there are some concerns, some community concerns, and we gotta make sure that all the NFPA regulations are abided by.
Absolutely.
Great.
Jefferson, just for clarification to the public, we as a board, it came before us as a special permit request. We granted that special permit request. All that really does is allow the project to go from point A to the next step to point B. We're not approving as a special permit saying that we've seen everything and everything has been taken care of, because at this time period in the process, we never have all of the data and all of the information. Knowing that this now has to go over a few more hurdles, including the planning board, to get the site plan approved. So I think there's a misconception out there that if the town gives a special permit, we're giving it saying, okay, it's all good, you guys can go ahead and do whatever you want. That's
Good point.
not the case whatsoever, and people need to realize that.
That is correct.
Okay.
And that's always been a bone of contention, not just in Riverhead, but all municipalities I've ever worked in. Whenever you have a dual agency, such as the town board and planning board working on an application, just as you saw with the Sonic, you're reviewing things at a site plan level that the planning board has already reviewed. So it can make things more interesting for an applicant to address.
And it's, the proposed use is a permitted use in the zoning code if they meet the criteria for the special permit.
That is correct,
So-
Which this did,
which this did.
right.
Right. So we're just approving the use, saying that it's permitted in the zoning because you met the criteria of the special permit.
Correct.
We're just
Yes.
saying, that's all we're saying.
Yes.
That's it. And then they have to comply with all the building code requirements, all the Suffolk County Health Department requirements, all those
Propane,
hurdles as well.
Gas code, there's all kinds of different hurdles they gotta go through.
That's correct.
So, isn't you know, this is still concerning to me. It's neg decked, and we don't even have all the information. So, we're
com-
saying there are no major impacts. We did a secret review, but we don't have a plan, and we
Fire
don't even
safe-
have a plan about public safety.
Fire safety analysis is not one of the criteria to which you evaluate as part of your secret review.
Right.
Just like the
But
New York
isn't-
State Building Code,
yeah.
you don't review the Suffolk County Health Department review, regulations as part of your secret review.
But doesn't secret review include cumulative impacts? And what if they say, or, you know, the fire marshals bring up the point that we have two propane plants right beside each other, that matters.
The cumulative impacts has to do with the number of facilities or similar uses within a given area, not a fire safety analysis of having two uses next door to one another.
But there are cumulative impacts when you have two propane facilities right by each other.
I would not consider that to be a cumulative impact because of, you only have two uses next to each other. You can't say that two is a high cumulative impact. If you started seeing more than that, you might raise that issue, but only having two facilities next to each other would not raise that as a major cumulative impact.
Well, we can't, but,
The fire marshal certainly can.
Right,
Yes,
not under
that's
secret,
exactly-
but
that's their
further
job.
along again in the process,
that's their
what's-
responsibility to say, this is my expertise, and, you know, we can't have two facilities, or we can't, there is no impact concerning fire.
And I'll give you one
So-
example, what the fire marshal could come back with is saying that
Uh-huh.
two facilities very close to one another, and this facility, the tanks have to be placed below ground.
Okay.
But I would think that, sorry, I made some notes for
It's okay.
myself. I would think that this consideration should include provisions for there could be an incident, you know, potentially involving two propane plants.
And again, that goes back to the fire safety analysis and the review and approval
don't
by the
have
fire
yet.
department and the chief fire marshal. You don't start looking at building code requirements as part of a special permit. You don't look at fire code safety requirements as part of a special permit. That is a detail that has to be addressed, and it really should be addressed through the site plan, because the site plan elements are reviewed by the planning board, and no disrespect to the town board, that set of rules and regulations pertains to, under their jurisdiction, not the town board as part of the special permit criteria.
Jeff, you know, I've had a few careers, I'm not into dealing with fire codes, I leave it to the experts, so there is no disrespect, that is their job, their responsibility, and, I think that, we will get a copy, if anyone wants to get a copy, send the whole board a copy of it.
Absolutely.
And, does anyone have any more comments?
Well,
on it?
according to, when we look at when we look at 301, 312, we have to prove that there are adequate provisions have been made for emergency conditions. I don't believe we've done that here. I mean, I don't know how we're making a decision without this information. And for me, I mean, you're saying that the memo had a wrong year and that's not important? That seems pretty big to me. Can we get a copy of the memo in question?
Absolutely. It's public record, it's public
Okay.
information.
So 301, 312 is the criteria for the special permit, and
And
that's
if you like, I could read it into the record, but again, it's based upon an application that no longer exists. Doesn't mean that those issues are no longer relevant.
I have a copy, Devin, can you, make a copy for the board and later on make sure that it goes on,
And it's public information.
So I just wanna be clear, Jeff, real quickly, so as the application changed, it really nullifies some of this information, correct?
Correct. And
Is
the
that
first
how-
comment has to do with the rail service, which no longer exists.
Okay, right, so it needs to be updated then,
Yes, and it will be.
okay. And I think, Craig said that he was updating it.
And
He was gonna-
again, one of the things he's gonna be asking for and requiring the applicant is already preparing
Right,
is the fire
okay.
safety analysis.
Perfect.
Jeff, was this published in the EMB? Doesn't a neg deck have to be published in the EMB?
I believe it was, but I can double check for you.
Yeah, I would like to know, I mean,
Okay.
I think it had to be, and I'd like to know the date of that.
Okay, absolutely.
Was this a type 1 action? Alright. So yeah, it will confirm if it was posted in the ENB, if it was a neg deck.
I think that's a requirement.
Any other
So
questions?
you're saying that it got downsized, right?
That is correct, and it's in the
That
process
was
of
a
being.
mitigating measure?
It has been downsized from the initial application, from what you issued your neg deck on, and it has been downsized further after your neg deck.
So it went, what did you say it went from? I wrote down. It went from 30,000 tanks?
The current proposal is now for 30,000, and no rail service,
So it went down by 1 tank.
and no rail service.
Well, I know about that.
And that's an important consideration. I know that there's a lot of incidents have been reported or concerned by the residents. A lot of that nationwide has to do with the rail service, because you're moving large amounts of propane via a rail type facility. I'm not saying that they're not safe, but that part of this application is no longer under consideration.
Thank you, Dick.
Well, I can say that I'm certainly not comfortable with the neg deck. I would still wanna rescind the neg deck because we did not have all the information. And I know I think this information is important. I think
Thank you.
it is combined impacts. Thank you.
So in order to rescind, you need the entire board, correct?
You need,
3 votes.
no, because I wouldn't have to bring it off the floor. I'd be doing it ahead of time.
Okay, so we need 3 votes?
I'm
I'm
not
looking-
looking to rescind it only because, Catherine, I understand what you're saying, that you think having 2 sites together is problematic, and it may very well be, and it may come out that way with the fire department. But that in itself is not, to me, is not the issue for SECR for a neg deck. That's something further down the road in the site plan process and the approvals. It's not necessarily a SECR issue to do what you're looking for. I understand what you're saying, but I don't think that falls into the SECR guidelines so much. I think that this falls more into fire, the codes, the gas, propane codes, and the fire department and the fire marshal. And that's where it's all gonna be addressed.
But doesn't it fall into cumulative impacts?
I've answered that previously. I do not believe it does.
Okay, I am going to concur with, Councilman Hubbard. I agree, it's not our job to decide, fire codes and where it goes. There is a process in place. If, it is determined that they are together and that they pose a danger to our community, that will be revealed through the fire analysis, and at that time, appropriate action will be taken, and the project obviously will not go forward. So I'm not gonna, agree to rescind this resolution. Can I take a vote from, Frank?
Can I just comment on
Sure.
one thing?
Well, we're not,
I mean, this memo that I'm seeing is just requesting information.
well, they're saying that they want a site plan. They wanna review the site plan, that's what it says.
This isn't any kind of final report from them. This is just asking for what they need.
Correct.
It says, which, we just approved the use.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Right.
The fire marshal can come back, and the fire department can say back they want only 2 tanks. They can come back and say if they want the 8 tanks, they have to be underground. They could come back and say they want earthen berms placed around the tanks. They can come back with any number of recommendations to comply with the fire safety code. And those are site plan issues, because that will affect the site plan and layout of the whole project. But it does not pertain necessarily to the use.
Right, like,
So you guys are saying it's okay to neg deck it without knowing, without having a final report from the fire marshals?
We are here to approve the use. There is a process concerning safety in the community and analysis. We need to address the use.
and just going down the list, cause I'm sure the public is like sitting on the end of their chair to figure out like what's on this fire marshal punch list. The first one is approval letter from the Long Island Railroad is required allowing access to the main line. That has been eliminated. Documents for review to be forwarded to the fire marshal's office outlining compliance with the International Fire Code, Chapter 61. If we denied the use of a propane facility, that wouldn't be needed.
Correct.
Documents for review, so if we said, no, you can't do a propane facility here, none of these things are applicable on here.
A lot of what you see on here are what you typically see with the building inspector report on the site plan. They have to comply with the New York State Building Code, or you have to get a health department permit.
So it says documents for review to be forwarded to the fire marshal's office outlining compliance with the International Fire Code, Chapter 61. They have to do that. They're not getting a building permit until they do.
right.
Documents for review to be forwarded to the fire marshal's office outlining compliance with the National Fire Protection Association 58 Liquefied Petroleum Gas Code, specifically storage of product, location of storage tanks, fire protection, and all other safety features. That has to be submitted before they get a building permit. Any structure being erected on the site will require a fire marshal construction permit. We know that because no permits get issued on commercial projects throughout the town unless they have a fire marshal construction permit, which they're not getting until they do the two above. Any fire suppression systems being installed shall require a fire prevention permit. That goes with every commercial application throughout the town. So they're not getting that unless all of the above has been taken care of, and if something, God forbid, should happen to the tanks, all the bells and whistles have to be in place to address any fire hazard. Plans shall show acceptable and compliant access roads in and out of the facility, International Fire Code, Chapter 503, Fire Access Roads, and Appendix D. That is part of the site plan to make sure that they can get in and out of the site properly. And as we know, with a proposed project downtown that is not complying with these conditions, the site plan application is not going forward. The last one, a separate site plan showing all utilities specific to fire prevention only shall be submitted for review by the fire marshal's office.
And that
So-
would be based upon the fire safety analysis.
Right, so,
Again,
These are
all of these are
all-
site plan issues, and we're not gonna go forward with the review of the application until we get the fire safety analysis and see how that affects the site plan. Not the use, the site plan.
Okay, so we are here to approve the use again.
Yeah, actually, what I read before is for the, special permit. In order to have a special permit, you have to have adequate provisions made for emergency conditions. So you feel these are adequate conditions?
well, that's what the fire
Provisions?
marshal analysis does.
Which we haven't seen.
Catherine typed her notes today.
Yes.
Yeah,
In a big print, so I can see it without my glasses.
yeah, they also come from other people, so, as we see through the texts lately. Okay, moving forward, how do?
Excuse me, I do my work, I do
Okay,
my
oh,
homework.
okay,
There's
okay.
nothing wrong with that.
Okay, it's great. Okay, so,
And that
moving
was very
forward, any other
disrespectful.
comments on designating the use of this applicant? Any further comments?
No.
Jody, anyone?
I'm comfortable with what the process is and what it's going to be.
Okay, so, we're gonna move forward, right? Move on to the next discussion. Catherine, you have any last minute comments?
Once again, I do my own homework, I do my work, and I usually try to come prepared.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
I don't like disrespectful comments.
Okay, this is a joke.
It wasn't funny.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
All right, thank
Thank
you,
you.
everyone. Okay, lastly, the last discussion item, is one that we have discussed on numerous occasions. For the last 3 decades, the highway department has picked up leaves here in Riverhead. Initially, the storage of leaves this year was an issue, and thereafter, we did find a location to store the leaves. Our financial advisor has indicated leaf pickup is included in the highway budget, as is snow removal. I note on October 1st, before the public, the board agreed to loose leaf pickup with the possibility of terminating the service next year. I am not in support of terminating loose leaf pickup, however, this will be a board decision. I warn the board, our residents have begun to gather their leaves in front of their homes. This can cause a huge water flooding problem in our entire community, in people's residences and our walking paths, including unnecessary cleanup costs should we have a storm and neglectfully address this issue. It is our responsibility not to be neglectful and to prevent our sewers from clogging. The public needs to be informed, and I am not leaving here today until this matter is finally resolved. I want to make it very clear, I refuse to stand here alone as a lone wolf. Bill, can you please come forward and, is he here? Yep. Bill, can you please come forward and address the financial component of this, loose leaf pickup?
I've already seen people, landscapers blowing leaves just out into the road, just off people's properties
Yes.
out into the
And
road.
and people have begun to place them outside, and we need to resolve this issue. Bill, good morning.
Good morning.
I know you've been here before, I think on quite a few occasions, and we need to resolve this.
We went
And
back-
thankfully, we have the, highway superintendent here.
I went back and did a little research. As far as I can see, we've at least been doing this through 1991 and potentially even longer than that. So it's included, the highway department has, I should say. So it's included in the highway budget in that they have equipment to do this, they have the employees to do this, and then again, whatever supplies, whether they have bags and so forth, is included in the highway department's budget or the highway fund's budget to be doing this for at least the last 30 years.
Does anyone on the board have any comments on this?
Actually, I think we should give Gio an opportunity.
Of
Gio,
course.
did you want to talk to us? And I'm going to agree that this is something we need to resolve. These are all the work session agendas where Gio came before the board and asked for a resolution on this.
Before he starts, I would like to say,
Six.
in my defense, as the liaison, I did do my homework and call the DEC several times to make sure that our 3 facilities were not being used, could be used, and they told me point blank because of open mining permits that it was unable to be used, so.
Right, and
That was a real hurdle for us.
Right,
Did
and-
you reach out to Crown Sanitation to see if they would take the leaves?
Nope, because Drew solved that problem and said
Yes.
he would take them over in engineering.
Okay, so you fixed the problem.
Right.
So we have the issue, right, and you did a good job, you
We
went out and
we have the
pursued
place
it,
to put the leaves.
and we have a place, and that's been determined. And on October 1st, we all agreed before the public, that we would go forward with the possibility of next year, of the leaves not being picked up. I did see an email going back and forth, and then Tim stated, well, this was already resolved at the work session. We're here again, this is the last time, this is too late, it's getting late, we're gonna have some difficulties with our drainage, and we can't be neglectful, and, good morning, Gio.
Good morning.
Good morning.
10 years ago, I came before the board, maybe not this board. I told them about the issues we would have down the road. 6 years ago, after the town of East Hampton stopped their program because it was supposed to come out of the general fund, I don't see how it's implemented in a highway budget without a resolution. I talked to Ron Caffrey yesterday. He was deputy highway superintendent for 8 or 9 years, been here for 40 years. Has never been put in a budget. If it comes out of the general fund, shouldn't you guys do a resolution authorizing it? I would think so. Up until this point, I came here in February to talk to you guys. With culvert and everything coming down, we waited. It came back in, I believe, April to talk to the board again about it. And I guess maybe, I've been there so many times, I'm so confused, I can't remember the times I've been here, but at least 6 times. Last time at the board meeting, Bill Rothar stated that it's in the highway budget. I totally disagree with that. The board said, okay, we'd like to do it one more time. And if you look up the records, my final saying was, who's funding it? I called East Hampton again. You have to have a resolution. You just don't assume it goes into highway budget. I don't even think Bill was here when we started this. So you'd have to find somebody that was here long before that. It was done mostly as a courtesy. Now it's gotten out of control. When I came here in April, you guys had 5 months to make a decision. You waited to the last minute. And
Okay,
then you
hold on,
put,
I brought
hold
this
on,
up, I
hold on,
brought
hold
this
on,
up.
hold on.
Yes,
You waited to the last minute and then
Hold on,
threw
hold on,
Frank
hold on.
under the bus when
Yeah,
we
I know,
got
bring
here.
that up.
And the last minute, we should do it again. What happens next year? I mean, I know the people like it, and just to clarify a couple of things, it's not that I don't want to get rid of the leaf pickup. I want to be compensated for it, like the highway law says. That's all I have to say, and that's the way it is. That's why no other town does it, because
Okay.
they didn't want to pay the bill for doing it.
How did you come up with the dollar amount of $250,000 for leaf pickup?
That was done, fuel, equipment, the amount of time it takes, pretty much the way the administrative chargeback goes. Basically, fuel, equipment,
I'd like to-
manpower.
I'd like to see a spreadsheet on that as to
I can get
what
you one.
you expect the
That's where we
purpose is.
came up, anywhere between 200 and 250. Me and Miss Joni worked it out.
So you have the
Well-
actual gallons of gas and
Rough,
everything?
it's
for-
a rough guesstimate.
Well, I'd like to see it.
Oh,
I'd like
well,
to see it on a spreadsheet.
I'll give it to you.
because
You're just
you know what,
telling me you
maybe-
wanna see it now.
Because maybe the board will decide to pay for it out of the general fund, or maybe contract out, but I'm telling you, if the leaves don't get picked up and you're expecting them to put them out at the curb, our garbage costs are going up significantly. And you're just taking from one area, which would be the highway budget, if you don't need all that equipment, like the dump trucks and everything else, because you're not doing the leaf pickup.
We do
then
more than
you
just, the
move that
equipment
money.
wasn't bought just for a leaf pickup. I don't know where you guys got that from.
Okay, well, all I know is that I have heard about this since I've been on, well, actually, it's only been the last few years, the last 4 years. So 2018, 2019, now 2020.
I brought this up at least 10 years ago, and I've been asking for money for the last 6.
Right, I do
And you
recall way back
guys-
when, and it was
You
brought up
guys
once.
kicked it down the road, and now we get to a point where this is the way it is. It's in your hands now. You're gonna pay the highway department, fine. You need code enforcement to go out there and catch the landscapers. This is for the regular person doing their yards.
Well, maybe we
I
gotta
say
just
this time and time again.
borrow the dump trucks.
Have
then
code
and have them
enforcement.
do it.
Come out, write people up. If you hire a landscaper, then the landscaper should be taking the leaves.
They do.
I don't think so. I catch 5 or 6 landscapers Saturday and Sunday mornings. I go on and ride.
Do you
I
call
see
code
this.
enforcement? Because we have code enforcement on the weekend.
I just telling you what I saw. I've been saying this for 6 years.
No, but Gio, are you calling code enforcement?
No, I'm not. I'm telling you what the deal is. It's up to you to make a decision. And you know what? You're either gonna pay for it or it's not gonna happen.
I'd like to see the actual cost. And
I can get you that.
And Bill could probably work with you on a,
Every other
Amortization schedule for the
service in
equipment.
town, you wanna do the parking lot downtown, you pay them $700,000. Everybody gets paid but the highway department. Don't interrupt, for 11 years, since I've been in office, the highway department's been ripped off, probably $10, $11 million. For the last so many years, another $3 million. I mean, next year my budget's getting cut. Where does it end?
Oh, hold
And
on.
this could have been stopped years ago, just by saying, look, people, we can't afford to do it.
Can you elaborate on the $11 million the town is ripping the highway
That
department of?
was administrative chargebacks.
Yeah, for what? Elaborate. I mean, you're making
That
a
was-
very strong statement and.
I'm making it because
Yeah,
I know it.
well, give
I
us
was
facts.
paying
Yeah, on what?
Justice Court $75,000 a year. I was paying different departments
What?
amount of money where it came up. That's why we stopped it.
so you're saying that money was taken out of the highway department for administrative chargebacks, that was $75,000 that was used for the justice court?
Yes. And other departments.
Which ones?
I can't remember them off the top of my head, but when
I'd
this
like to see
came
a
out
list
a
of that,
while
too.
ago,
I'd like to see a list of that.
that's why
too.
we stopped it when we did a letter to the comptroller. He says
I'd
you
like-
can't do it no more.
Gio, I'd like to see a list of chargebacks that were allocated to other departments. I really
Okay.
would. Bill, maybe you can work with Gio on that, because that's a really strong accusation that we took
I'm
money
just
from the
telling you.
highway
It really
department
is.
to-
Yeah.
I'm just telling you what it is. That's why we stopped the chargebacks.
And then I'd also like to see an amortization schedule for all the equipment that you buy that's used for leaf pickup, as to how many hours are actually spent during leaf pickup versus those vehicles being used for the rest of the year. And I'd like to see a spreadsheet from you as to how you came up with
We
your
have-
cost of
we figured it out.
250,000.
We figured it out. That's what it roughly comes to.
So Gio, does Southampton pick up leaves?
No. I think they
Does-
pick up, they, do something where if you're over 70, they'll go out. If you come in and fill out a
Which we
form or
talked
whatever.
Well, how can they do that if it's not a
Does-
function of highway?
What I was talking.
They get, I guess he gets, it's Southampton Town. I guess he gets a certain amount for it.
Does
I'm only going by
East
what I
Hampton
was
pick up?
told. No. East Hampton stopped that about 6 years ago. The same thing I'm bringing up to you now for the last 6 years, that it's not a highway function. And they
Does that-
stopped it once the highway superintendent went to the supervisor and told him what it cost to pick up leaves. They stopped it right then and there.
Does Southold pick up?
No,
Does Brookhaven pick up?
no.
We already determined that the East End towns don't pick up, that's already been
I think
determined
they
on
do.
every time that we've raised this issue.
All I'm asking is to be
Yeah.
compensated. Like I said, it was out there that I don't wanna do it just 'cause I don't wanna do it. That's not the point. The point is, under highway law, you're supposed to be compensated for work done outside of the scope of the highway department.
So, okay. I just have a couple questions for Bill.
I mean, we have, people are putting leaves out now. They're not even supposed to put them out till a week before we come pick up.
We
They're
need
putting them
to
out now.
address this,
Huh?
yes. Hopefully today, and we also need to address today, next year.
That's
Bill,
definitely
you wanna-
now, because if we decide, you decide, make that decision, all the leaves are going to his property. And pretty soon he's gonna be over capacity. Now you gotta install tanks and drains and test wells. You know, it's,
Look, Gio, as much as I hate to say it, I think it is a service that probably is gonna go by the wayside, for many reasons. And obviously, for those reasons are why the other towns have done it, and I understand that. The DEC implications, it makes it very difficult.
correct.
There's no need for the leaves like there was years ago when people were mulching it, the farmers were using it. Everybody's got more than they know what to do with, so it is very problematic.
Yeah, we're actually running out of room now. I mean, my
Understood.
facility's full. If you decide to pay me today or whatever, his facility's gonna be chock full.
Understood?
And then DEC's gonna come out.
Right.
And, you know, times changed. A while back, we were able to dump in Manorville and in Jamesport. Now everything has to come to Youngs Avenue.
Right.
And
To-
actually, it
to
might,
Tim's point,
we did it in 3 weeks. Now, if I have to truck everything from these 2 areas, it might take 4 weeks now.
Right.
you
So to
know,
Tim's
so-
point, I used to take leaves from the town of Riverhead myself. But even with the 1,500 acres that we have here on Long Island, I am over capacity. I can't take another leaf.
I'm gonna fix that when I get to
Please,
Albany.
please do. But that's essentially the issue. We might be able to get away with it this year using Drew's facility, but it's going to keep getting worse.
Right, and that's what I'm saying, we realize, my thoughts are we can't continue this after this year. But what I would ask of you is out of the kindness of your heart, to allow it to happen for this year.
I've been kind for 6 years.
You're a kind person, Gio.
I know I am.
You get elected all the time.
Yeah, but I'm not weak.
No,
And I
I'm
know
not
the
saying
law.
you're
All I'm
weak.
saying is,
I'm not saying
if you
you're
have
weak.
money,
Strategy, Tim.
if you have money to pay everybody else for services, and like I said, if I tallied up how much stuff I do for you, you owe me money, one payment, you know, that's not bad, but to
But
keep
we're all on the
doing
same
it.
team here.
I
Yes,
know well,
absolutely.
And that's what we're trying to
I get
figure
the
out.
teamwork, I get the teamwork thing. But my point is what highway law states.
Well, our attorney.
I
come
get
up
it,
in that
and
regard.
that's
Yeah.
why, another reason I'm agreeing to discontinue this for future years.
And if we don't have code enforcement or the police department go out and catch people that are putting stuff out there. I mean, they're putting garbage,
And that's only
branches.
gonna get worse
Yeah.
if this is discontinued, so you're absolutely correct. We are going to have to enforce it. We should be enforcing it already, because it does happen. And I know what you're saying, that the landscapers will take it down the end of a quiet or dirt road and just dump them and drive away.
Yeah.
We know it happens.
Correct.
And it's gonna be.
And having caught, I mean, if you're seeing them do this, I would ask you to at least call PD or code
Mm-hmm.
enforcement, have somebody go up and start, you're seeing it. Let's put a stop to it.
Well,
But-
I would like, you know what? You wanna be a team? All right, you cut the price in half. I'll be part of the team. You cut the price in half for what it costs me.
Let's make a deal, okay?
Okay, here's my only concern to this.
You know, and
you
I'm
being-
taking a beating on this.
Okay.
All right, but Gio, a question I have is, this has been going on for 30 years. How could you run a department for 30 years losing $200,000 a year? I don't understand that. I understand what Bill is saying, where money has been put into the budget over the years to help with the equipment needed to do it, to help with purchases of the gas, to help with the employees and everything else. I know there's not one light item that says leaf pickup. We all understand that. But I think in the cumulative picture of your budget, money has been placed here for this to be done, because I can't imagine you've worked 30 years losing $200,000 a year.
Is there a resolution for, I mean, you got
No,
resolutions
it's
for
just-
everything.
It's a general budget, that's why I said there's no single one light item that says removal of loose leaf
I
pickup.
think
There's nothing that says
if,
that.
you call East Hampton Highway Department and go on what they're doing, why these other towns stopped it.
No, I agree, I totally agree it should be stopped, it has to, for a multitude of reasons. I would like to see it continue for the 70 and over, that I
Yeah,
would
but if-
like to
yeah.
see.
Yeah, but
if
this
you're
all has
saying
to
it's
be,
not a
this all
function
has
of
to be
highway, then
worked
how can you
out.
do it for
Right,
them?
understood.
Hold on.
I'm not
because
even
there
sure,
is.
I'm not
I
even
looked at
sure
the law,
Southampton
so let me
still
bring
does it.
out.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
So-
yeah, Geo has come to us, I think you've brought us that discussion of, you have brought us this solution sheet, I don't know, maybe at 4 of the meetings.
It's
So
been
I
some-
know
That's been
that-
circulating for a couple years, but.
Yeah, right, so you have been offering.
I've been
us
trying to find a way
And you
to
have
deal
come
with
to
it.
us many times, and yes, Tim's right, it's a nice service and people really like it, but there must be a reason that no other towns are doing it.
They are doing it for
Cause they have to
70 and
pay
over.
for it, that's why.
They're doing,
Well,
so
plus
what's,
the disposal of the product.
Yeah, and finding a spot.
Right.
where-
The
That's-
disposal of the leaves
yeah.
is a huge issue.
Yes.
Well, we have the Youngs Avenue for this year, I
well,
guess.
let's think
if-
about this too.
Hold on.
I mean, Brookhaven landfill is closing in 4 years, so where we're taking our household waste to right now, that's not gonna exist, and if you're going to add leaves on top of our household waste, we have to renegotiate the contract based on the tonnage with the town of Brookhaven, so, there's a lot involved here.
That's why
I mean, you're
that's
not-
what I've been saying. It's a lot involved. You can open up his facility and let people come dump for free. I believe Southampton does that.
Well, I'm saying, if you're saying that leaf pickup is not a function of the highway department, I know the supervisor has done some research on it, so maybe you wanna enlighten
Well,
us.
There
people
is some-
people would be able to bag them,
Look,
where would they, cause I actually saw.
everything you're talking about is
yeah.
a sanitation function.
Right,
It's not a highway function. So therefore, you would have to talk with the town engineer. I did a lot of this as a courtesy. And it comes to a point where, you know what, you get overwhelmed, and that's what's happening.
Can
well,
we
I think,
overwhelm you for one more year?
Yes.
I
One
think,
more
One
year,
more
Gio,
year,
come
and
on.
there's the light in sight.
I think a lot of people did realize that it probably wasn't happening, cause I noticed a lot of people with a lot of bagged up leaves last weekend.
And my office is getting a tremendous amount of complaints. I just wanna bring up Bill just to add for the funding, and then, thereafter, Anne Marie concerning, Anne Marie, have you done any research on this concerning the law eventually? Well, we'll have Bill speak, and then, can you please come up?
So a couple of things, just want to understand myself and clarify some things. This board asked me for my opinion on my expertise in these things, and I give you my expert opinion in what you asked me for. So a couple of things that were mentioned, the administrative chargebacks, about 6 years ago, maybe 5, this board actually asked for a self-audit from New York State. They were doing administrative chargebacks as far back as we could see, and New York State recommended we don't do that, and we stopped. That put an extra 300,000 in change into the highway budget, okay?
What year was that?
I'm gonna say 5 or 6. I will let the board know exactly what year it was. It was somewhere around 2015.
And that was for leaf pickup
No, it was in general.
In
So,
general?
so what Gio was referencing is when we get charged, when we charge back for certain functions, any administrative functions in the general fund that cover other funds like sewer and water get charged back. We pay their payroll, we pay their bills, all that stuff gets charged back
Representative
because
and legal
it's
fees.
all being charged to the general fund. Highway's the only exception. We stopped that 5 or 6 years ago. So that's number one. In the last 6 years, Gio hasn't spent his entire budget. So he's got the money to do this, whether it's in equipment. I understand he doesn't buy equipment specifically for this, but the equipment that he has, he uses to do this, okay, along with the employees and so forth, and gasoline. I don't know what has changed from 2019 to 2020. The budget wasn't reduced then. He's correct. Next year's budget was reduced as every other department's was, but in 2020 it wasn't. So we're looking at two things here. Continuing to do this for 2020 and fixing it in 2021 where we don't do that, and obviously allow the residents enough time to change what they're used to. The only cost that I was aware of was the additional cost of dumping, which I think engineering has taken care of for this year at least. I don't know, you guys know more than I do about what's gonna happen in future years, but at least for this year, I believe that was taken care of. So I don't know if I'm missing anything in there. I just want to clarify my understanding, and if there's something I'm missing, let me know.
Yeah, I just want to clarify that the budget for 2020 in highway has not changed.
Correct.
And again, that was something that we met with Gio and the budget, and we came up with the cutbacks. We didn't cut them, the state cut us, the county cut us. And I think some of highway funds, are gonna be cut by the state. So we have not cut any, made any budgetary cuts to the highway department for this
Right,
year.
but I would also like to analyze what the actual need of the highway department is, because if we're charging $500 a household for highway tax, and there's a 40% surplus in the budget when we're supposed to be at a 15% as per the state comptroller, then maybe we're charging too much in highway taxes. And if we're going to be now paying for leaf pickup out of the general fund, you know, I don't know, we might have to make
You
some
would divert the
adjustments
taxes to the general fund, correct?
Okay,
Maybe.
can we hear from Anne Marie? Thank you, Bill.
And who owns the equipment in the highway department? Does the town own it, or does the highway department own it?
Highway department owns it.
And who pays the employees? Do they get paid out of the general fund, or do they get paid out of the highway fund?
Highway.
Okay, except for Gio. Gio gets paid out of
And
general.
two other
That's right.
people.
I'm sorry, I was getting it mixed up. I was getting it backwards. I know that. I'm just a little tired still.
Well, just so you said, I do underspend. We didn't have no snow last year and very little year before. So you are gonna underspend. But just so, and I've said this 10 times up here, back in 1980, state says you can charge so much for equipment. I think the average household is like $200 for a highway tax, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, it's the same price as it is now. You're only allowed $200,000 a year for equipment. So once I figured that out with Bill, anything I underspent in my fund balance, and I needed to keep a certain amount in there for under state law, I could use on equipment. So the amount of money I was getting, I wasn't even getting that. I was getting 50 or 60 grand a year when I first started here. Average pickup truck now is 50 or 60 grand, if not more.
The 200 you're talking about is chips?
No,
No?
it has nothing to do with chips. That's what the law says you can charge for highway taxes. I mean, for equipment, you can't go over that line. Brookhaven Town is $1 million in equipment. Southold, Southampton, we were at 200. One truck, buying one truck, I just bought a new truck, finally, 180,000 for one truck. And you imagine the last 12 years that I've been coming here, I went from $50,000, $60,000 a year for equipment. Now I'm up to 150. I'm still not at 200 as of yet. So how do you keep all your equipment up to par, halfway decent stuff? And we found out we're working with Bill that I could use money out of fund balance. Just to let you know on that, it was $1.4 million a year that I had to keep in fund balance. Out of the goodness of my heart, because I'm a team player, I have 2.1 in there to help Moody's with your ratings. Anything over that, that's what I'm buying my equipment out of. And I get frustrated because I have to know what I need by March, April, what I need so it can be built, so I can have it by December. If I don't have it in, I'm down 2 dump trucks right now, vacuum truck, box truck, sweeper, 2 mowers that I should have had purchase orders for probably back in March or April. Probably won't have them now till next March or April.
Well, I think we discussed that and the mowers were approved at one point, but I sent you an email to, for us to meet on equipment and any other concerns. And I think Frank, you're the liaison, so set up a meeting, I'm available Monday.
But you understand how I get frustrated.
let's-
This is April, now it's November, and I'm still short stuff. Now you understand why I get frustrated. Because in the end, I work for the taxpayers.
So do we.
I have to do my job,
Right.
and I get frustrated when I have money in account, over and above what I need, and I still don't have the equipment at this point.
Okay, you are getting your equipment and you have your liaison, Frank Bayrod, and I have.
Anybody else wanna be the liaison? 'Cause,
Anybody,
done-
he has not.
Been there, done it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he hasn't
Could have just made it. It
I've
shouldn't
been there,
be.
done it too.
It shouldn't be.
Yeah, right.
It shouldn't be this complicated.
Okay, you
Give
have
me
your
what I
liaison.
need, and we don't have issues.
Okay, have your liaison put that forward to myself and to the board.
We'll
Yeah,
talk
because
later, Frank.
We'll
Alright.
talk later,
Because-
perfect.
Why
Because
can't
I'm-
Gio talk to us directly? He's an elected
Of
official.
course he can, but
Yes, he
listen,
can.
He doesn't have to go through his liaison.
Right, no, and
I've sent
report to me.
over the last at least 5 times my equipment list. That's what I'm saying.
Good,
I'm
give-
getting frustrated because I've done this time
Good.
again, and I've got no answer.
okay,
I know.
but,
This is only some of the work sessions.
so under highway law for the budget, Gio, you're supposed to put in a request to the supervisor as to the equipment that you need for the subsequent year.
Yes.
And that's, you've given her a list of the equipment that you need?
I gave that back in March.
Cause Bill was saying that he didn't recall seeing one in past years.
And I don't recall seeing one, but if it was done, I have not.
Teresa should have.
Hold on, did the liaison to the highway department receive one? A list of his equipment?
That he needs
Back-
for next
that
year
he
to
needed?
buy?
That would
Okay,
be,
you haven't
no,
seen
that
it,
would,
I
that
haven't
would be
seen it.
on your, agreement to spend funds. You get that every year.
I
It has
haven't.
all the equipment on it.
Okay, well, let's work through that. We have your
Yeah, but
liaison and you can speak to any members on the board, and then you can, all the equipment has to be approved by the board.
Bill, do you have the list that he's talking about of equipment that he wants to buy for 2021?
No, that goes to the supervisor, at least it has. I think I received a copy, I don't know what year, when this all came up, the beginning of the year. So I think Anne Marie found a copy of one that was sent out either in 2019 or 2018, I forget what year
Yeah.
it was.
Okay, so there wasn't one in 2020 then. Okay, Anne Marie, can you
And
come
that
up?
should go to the whole board, not to
Exactly.
me. To the whole board.
CC.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
Highway law says it goes to the supervisor
Okay,
when
yeah,
she's
good.
preparing the budget.
Mhm.
I'm
And it
just
wasn't
saying-
done.
Yeah,
Well-
and Gio is an elected official along with us. I think we can all, as I think Tim said, or someone said, we can all work together and figure this out. But I just wanna say that Gio does a great job, and
Yes,
that's
of
why
course
he
he does.
gets elected again and again. And he's respected within our community, a former vet, fire department chief, and I think we can all figure this out.
DJ.
That's why we're
Let's not
here.
forget the DJ.
Yes,
I wanna make sure he gets his respect.
Yes, and he does get his respect, and we thank him for the work that he does. We have to, we brought this issue, we're going back to loose leaf pickup. We brought this up, there's at least 5 work sessions, and most of those work sessions, I have been the one that added that to the work session. So hopefully today, together, all of us, he's here, we're gonna work through this. And Anne Marie, can you just give us a little bit of insight on the highway law, please?
Sure. There is a specific provision and a concrete legal requirement on when and how to file the agreement to spend highway funds. I can email that all to you. But as far as the issue between, is it a highway duty leaf pickup, or is it another department or different department, or not a town function at all, I don't think my role should be here and now, front and center, debating the law with the highway superintendent.
Okay.
I don't think it's fair, and I generally recite to the board that I give my legal opinions, attorney-client privilege, generally in executive session.
Okay.
That said, I will tell you that historically, town records do reveal that the highway department was in fact doing leaf pickup, and the town, quote, through its highway fund, was funding it. Quite frankly, you know, when you go back historically through the records, there are even very detailed reports to the then town boards, one in particular in 1990 or 1991 that I can share with you to look at, which gives you good insight. So rather than, quote, debate the issue legally with the highway superintendent, really, I know that the town board simply wants to resolve it for this year.
Correct.
Your financial administrator has informed you that it has been funded, and then moving next year, it's for you collectively together as a town board to address it. But I just feel in a very difficult position because I don't like legally to challenge any department head before the town board. And it's really not productive because, as you all indicated, time is of the essence.
It is.
And we should resolve it.
So
I
then
mean-
maybe we should add it on for, amend the agenda to include it into executive session today so that we can get legal advice from our counsel.
We can do that. However,
You have sent.
before we,
We can't make a decision if we're waiting for executive session then.
Well,
we,
I think the decision, because everybody has decided that leaf pickup will happen this year, is
We
how
have.
it's going to be funded. So if, and whether or not it's a function of the highway department and whether or not it's included in his budget, you know, the only outstanding issue is whether or not it's as legal advice, whether or not it's considered a highway function.
so we can make a decision here in the public needs to know, where we are, and so we can make the decision that there is leaf pickup, and we should also decide on next year, okay? And again, as Jody suggested, the people who are 70 or over, we will pick it up. Can we get an agreement on that?
Well-
And then we'll go into executive session to get a legal opinion and to see if and how it's gonna be funded.
I just want to say one thing. So I don't have any objection. I'm fully prepared to give the town board a detailed legal opinion on it. I just will state that the issue is really boiling down to funding. Is it funded or isn't it? That's not today, and has it been? That's not a legal question. That's a financial administrator, and I think he's provided that to the board. If the board is not satisfied with the financial administrator's recitation to you, you know, that's a different story, but I'm trying to get out of a legal quagmire between
We
the
get it.
highway superintendent and town board. So it's really whether you trust and rely on the report of your financial administrator that it is presently funded, or don't you? And then you move in that direction. You know, the other issue is, you know, so under the highway law, if the highway superintendent is taking the position that this isn't a highway function, then quite clearly, you wouldn't be moving forward in the future. For those items, I can address the legality with you,
Devin,
you know.
excuse me a minute, can you just go outside and see what these people are requesting at the door?
I think that's Lori Holt.
That's
That's what it
Holt
looks
and,
like.
and,
Yeah.
the
And
chief.
They were trying to get somebody's attention in here.
They're not here for
So-
executive sessions, so.
I'll
Okay,
do
so why don't we-
whatever the
I'm
board
sorry.
wants, you know, I mean,
Yeah, I just, you know what, because I think the board has said they want the leaf pickup this year.
We do,
Yes.
right.
yes.
So do you rely and have faith in the report of the financial administrator that it's been funded?
Well, that is something that we will have to discuss with you in executive session
Okay.
as to if the town board says they want the leaves picked up this year, then who's gonna do it, what equipment are we gonna use, and how do we make it happen?
So are you adding that to today's agenda?
Yes,
No, you're asking.
I'm asking.
Yes, it's just something, get it, okay.
Well, it seems like if we're gonna discuss it in exec, wouldn't we wanna have Gio come in too and talk
Well,
about it?
no,
Or
because
are you
he's-
only talking about the funding?
Well, when we were facing litigation from Oak Hills, the highway superintendent had his attorney, the town board had their attorney, and the two attorneys would speak to each other. We never had Gio in the executive sessions,
But we're
Catherine,
not-
and you know, 'cause you were
But
there.
we're not, yes, I know that, Jody. We're not in litigation.
Nope.
Understood, but he has his own attorney.
Well, why don't we, we're going back
Not in
and
this
forth.
issue. That's just not true.
Why don't we just deal with the funding right now and
Right.
this is it, this is going to, I hate delays. How come you move government constantly? Meetings and this and that, we know what the issues are. I've seen it 5 times this year before the public. And I'm not leaving here, I'm not getting off this chair, I'm not gonna close this meeting until this is resolved. There are leaves out there, there is a hurricane that may be approaching, we get a storm, okay? We're gonna have some engineering difficulties, people's residences may be, clogged with water. We need to address it, people are putting the leaves, our senior citizens are all watching to see what's happening. Okay, some of them have been locked down since COVID. We are creating unnecessary stress. To us, to the board, I am asking this board to please, let's address this now before I close this meeting.
We've already all said.
Okay, so
pick
let's
up the
deal with
leaves
the
this
funding,
year.
but let's
We've
deal
all-
with,
We've all said pick
Thank
up the
you.
leaves this year.
Okay,
so
so
then I don't
let's
know
deal with the
how they're gonna
funding.
get picked up.
yes, let's
Okay.
deal with the funding right now, let's go.
Do you wanna talk about next year?
Absolutely, but let's
So
deal,
this year, you're looking to pick up the leaves, but you're going to discuss the funding, correct?
mm-hmm,
And then next
already
year,
discussed that.
and then we are figuring out next year moving forward, what we're doing.
yes, the
Correct?
public should know, and this is
I'm
the
fine with
fifth time this has been brought up, and you're right, you're reiterating that, and I thank you, Catherine, but we're going with what? We agreed that is, let's deal with the funding.
We all decided leaf pickup this year. The financial administrator said that the money, that it is funded in the
Good.
highway department budget for this year,
Okay,
so. He's saying it is.
okay, so are we agreeing with the financial, Bayrod, as the
Administrator or
liaison, are you agreeing with the financial decision of our financial administrator? Are you agreeing
What, that it's
that it
funded?
is funded?
What does it matter
No,
what I?
No, everyone should take a vote.
Everybody votes on that,
Right,
right?
yeah,
Because if
that's
it's-
it.
And we've
because if
already
it's not,
voted that
we
we're gonna
agree.
pick up the leaves.
Because if it's
Now
not-
we have to vote on whether
Right,
it's funded or not.
okay, so that's what I'm saying, do
Right.
you agree with the financial administrator's, assertion that it's
He's
funded?
an expert in his field.
Okay, so you agree then, good. I agree. How about you, Jody?
I agree.
I don't wanna be the
Tim?
liaison anymore. You be the liaison.
Tim?
Bullshit.
I agree with the synopsis, I really do. Gio, I know you're not happy with that. I would just.
I don't agree.
I understand that, we have to come to terms for this year for right now. I think we're all in agreement, we're not gonna continue this another year with the exception of maybe 70 and over. Can we get this done, Gio?
I offer to cut the price in half, that's far as I'll go.
We're appealing to you, Gio, to reconsider. Our financial administrator says it's in the
Can
fund.
you come to the mic, Gio, so people can hear?
And it bothers me. For 6 years I've been saying this, and I come to you guys in February, say the same thing, then you wait until October, because you probably thought, well, Gio's gonna bow down to us. It's not happening. I will cut the price in half. If you can find the money to fix parking lots and all this stuff here, I will gladly help you. I'm meeting you halfway. I'm
Money
meeting
for
you
parking
halfway.
lot
I'm
Gio's
sorry.
being bonded out, that's not money that we found. That's money that's bonded out. We certainly are not gonna bond money to do leaves. We would certainly
that's the
hope that
best
you
way-
would be
that's the
willing
best
to
I can
play
do.
ball one more time and do it.
That's the
and
best
if you're
I can
not,
do.
you're not, that's on your shoulders.
That's the best I can do.
Okay, it's on your shoulders then. There will be no leaf pickup this year as far as I can see, because I don't know how we can force them to do it.
You guys can find money all over and everywhere else to do stuff.
You know,
Yeah,
you
well,
might
Gio, it's
consider-
not quite that easy. You might wanna know what you're talking about before you make a statement like that.
Gio, you know, we're under COVID.
All right, let's move on. I think this is, I think we'll be sorry, everybody's gonna be disrespecting each other. We need to calm down and let's move on.
Gio, can we call him back? He walked out. I mean, in case we have some further questions, let's just recap.
He's in the building.
I think it's obvious what's not gonna happen, people. You can beat your head against the wall all day long you want, but you're not gonna change his mind. I think that's obvious. He made that clear.
And we're agreeing, everyone's agreeing to not do leaf pickup next year.
Correct?
With
It's
a,
been stated, Catherine, 30 times.
Catherine, you don't have to reiterate. We got that.
I
It's
know,
already
I'm
been
just-
established.
well,
Let's
you
move
said you
forward.
wanted a final decision.
Well, we are. That's been, we spoke about it. So next, the board decided, Gio, thank you for coming back. The board decided not to, decided next year there will be no leaf pickup unless, individuals 70 and over need the service and they have to register. As far as, picking up leaves, the board is directing you to pick up the leaves this year.
You have to pay me for it.
Now, as far as I can see, it's been in your budget, Gio, so I'm not gonna pay twice for a service that's already there.
Just
That's a
like-
shame.
Just like snow removal is built into the budget and there's no line for it.
It isn't a lot for it.
Snow removal?
So,
Bill, is there snow removal line in the budget?
There's an overtime line for snow removal.
Overtime line.
And then there's supplies for salt and sand.
Okay, yeah, but not for the removal, it's anything extra.
Yeah, but keeping the roads open during a snowstorm is a function of the highway department, so we
Yeah, very-
need to make sure that our roads are safe for the people that travel on them, and that's what has to be done. And if he's refusing to do it this year, and if he's refusing to do it this year, then we're gonna have to figure out how to get the money to do it, because people are already putting their leaves out in the road, and the roads are not gonna be safe.
Well, you better grow a money tree because the budget's been done and there's no money for it.
Yes.
So I don't know how you fix that. It's quite simple, people. We don't need to keep battering this around for hour after hour. The
I
facts
agree
are the
with that.
facts.
I agree with that. Let's
The
move
money's
on.
in his budget to do it, he's refusing to do it, it's on Gio, as far as I'm concerned.
We'll just bill them.
So
We'll have an outside service do it and bill them.
Well,
do that.
let's get
Let's
the
move into,
advice
let's
from outside
move into
counsel.
exec.
No, we're not going, we need to, you wanna go to exec to deal with the funding?
No, I
What-
thought we I thought we were finished.
Yeah, I thought we were finished. He's directed to do it. And the funding is in there, and, yes, Anne Marie.
I think Councilwoman Giglio is correct. I think when she just suggested executive session, it was whether or not the town board could go to an outside service for. That I have a definite opinion on, as the town board is aware, because I shared with you PERB decisions on that fact.
Okay.
I saw that.
Yeah.
I mean, it was my understanding we were gonna go into exec and speak with our attorney because she didn't wanna she doesn't like to address us publicly, that was my understanding.
Right,
You
the
can- you
opinion
can-
is
If we
whether
want
or
to
not.
amend the, agenda, I would be down for that.
Right, we have to amend it.
Right.
Well, I would. I
Right.
agree to amend it.
Because the opinion is whether or not leaf pickup is a highway function, and that's the opinion that we are seeing from the town attorney. And if it's determined that it is or it isn't a function, then we can act accordingly.
Okay, so if we go into executive session, the public needs to know. Will we reach an agreement today? Can we agree on an agreement today, how we're gonna move forward?
We've agreed
No, I'm saying
30
after
times. I don't know why you
executive
keep asking, can we agree?
So we're going forward, it's just a matter of funding, correct?
Well, we're going to discuss whether or not leaf pickup is a function of the highway
Okay.
department. So, but we all agreed, and it was unanimous,
Okay,
that
good.
leaf pickup was happening this year. We did it, we've done it.
Good, okay,
For the last
moving
6
forward.
months, we've said, leaf pickup is happening this
Perfect.
year, and then you're gonna look at next year. But it was a matter of
Good.
where we could dispose of the leaves, which Frank Bayrod and the town engineer have found a location for this year. So, that was
Right.
that was the bone of contention from Gio when he first came in, is where are we gonna put the leaves, now that the farmers won't take them, and we have nowhere for them to go. So we've gotten over that hurdle.
Good,
Now it's that it's not funded. And now the financial administrator's saying it is funded. Now it's whether or not it's a highway function, which we have a legal opinion that we'll hear in executive session. So we all agreed unanimously, pick up the leaves this year, and now we have to just get a decision as to whether or not it's a function of the highway department.
okay, great, so can I have a motion, get a first and a second to go into executive session?
Yes, after I give Denise her poster and her certificate of.
Did she get
I'm
one
gonna
the
need
other
a
day?
break anyway.
Finally, good to see you.
No,
No,
we're done.
no, we're done.
With public items.
Can I get a first and a second to go into executive
Well,
session?
motion.
And we're amending the agenda to include,
Mhm.
legal counsel advice on whether or not leaf pickup is a highway function.
Correct.
So, do you wanna make a motion to amend the agenda, or?
Yes, we already did,
Okay.
I need a vote, can I get a motion to agenda, agenda?
Motion.
I'll second the motion that we add it to the executive session agenda.
Perfect. Good to see you, Joe. 2 days in a row. Thank you.